Hello and welcome to the Slingshot channel. Yes, today it's all about slingshots. So if you're not interested in my slingshot content, this would be a good time to leave. I hope you'll stay. Okay, today I have a lot of slingshots for you. I'm going to talk about different frames, different rubber types, different band lengths, different ammunition, different shooting styles, and last not least, different purposes, things that you can do with a slingshot, and that is a really exhausting topic. So let's jump right in. Now, if you are thinking about getting into the slingshot hobby, then you first have to ask yourself what I really want to achieve. What is my purpose? Why am I looking at slingshots in general? Because I think there's just basically three different things that you can do with it. Number one is like tournament shooting. So you just want to be accurate, and you're not interested in the power and nothing. You just want to be really accurate with the slingshot on the short distance, typically 10 meters. The second thing is hunting and maybe self-defense. That's a whole different issue. This means that you want to use the slingshot to hurt something. May it be an attacker or a zombie or simply a rabbit or a turkey, so that's the second thing. The third thing is you want to use this for fun strength training. So you just want to max out the power, and you also enjoy the destruction that you can achieve if you really max out slingshots. So that is the category that I am actually following. That line, I love that line. I'm not a hunter, and definitely I'm not a tournament shooter. So then let's first begin with where you begin. And this is, what if you've never shot a slingshot before? How would you start? I would recommend starting with rubber balls, and you can get this in any sizes, like from the RAM community and so on. So rubber balls are available from really tiny all the way up to like 68 caliber rubber balls. So therefore I recommend those because they're fairly accurate, and if you hit your hand by any chance, this is not going to hurt you. So rubber balls are probably best suited for beginners. And I would also recommend a fairly weak slingshot with a higher fork if that is something that you're concerned about. So this slingshot, actually made by Gary Flatband Miller, who's still active in the slingshot forum, I think. He gave this frame to me probably 15 years ago. I think it was at a slingshot tournament. So I think I won it even, because it still has the price tag on it. I mean, that was price number 22, and I think I won that. It was a lottery, I didn't win the tournament. But in any case, this is a slingshot that you can shoot in the hammer grip style. We're going to talk about this later some more. But you can also shoot it in the classic finger support style, where you put your thumb against one of the arms, and then the other one you just curl around the other one. And as you see, this isn't the original band set because that rubber is gone, but there's the dimensions that Flatband liked when I met him. Maybe he changed, but I don't actually think so. I think he just stuck to it. So this is a tapered band set. It's about 1.5 centimeters here and about 1 centimeter here. That gives it some extra speed. This because the rubber band will stretch more here, and the acceleration will be more violent, even though this is so weak that you can't really not talk about violence. But this is really a weak band set, and typically you draw it out to your anchor point. You can just go ahead and just stretch it more if you want, but this is typically what you do. And this is enough power for 10-meter practice shooting, and even if something goes terribly wrong, this is not going to hurt anyone. So I really suggest this is how you start. And again, I suggest rubber balls if you want to get started. Now, let's say as a beginner you really want to try to hit something for success, and then you also don't need power at this stage. You probably don't even want power at this stage. So therefore, I'm suggesting the anchor point drawing method, which also gives me a chance to explain how to aim in that style. Basically what you do is you stretch the bands out until you hit your anchor point, and that's typically like with the knuckle of your thumb, the corner of your mouth, like so, right? And then you close the left eye, and then you turn the slingshot until the upper band covers the lower band. Because if you've done that, then you know that you're holding the slingshot straight, and then you use that corner as an aiming point. Now on the height, you of course have to kind of dial yourself in. So it takes a little bit of trial and error to then find out where to aim it to. And then it's very important to hold the pouch right, because what you do is you pinch it between thumb and in the index finger like so. And I just do this in front of the ball a little bit. So I'm holding on to the ball, but also mostly on the pouch, because a clean release is the most important factor now. Everything else is pretty much covered, but the release has to be really straight. So don't like twirl it, or, in neither way. You just have to let the ball slide out between your fingers really straight. And so if you just angle it and cant it just a little bit, you won't hit your target. So that's really, really important. Okay. So you hit your corner of the mouth, you hold the slingshot straight, you aim, and you release and hit. And this is really reproducible. If you practice this right, you're going to hit again and again and again. And this is exactly how the tournament shooters would shoot. And this slingshot is actually very capable for a tournament shooter. It has everything that it takes, and you don't need power. For tournament shooting, you don't want power, because the more powerful the bands are, the more you have to kind of hold on to it, and then you start to shake and everything. You don't want this for a tournament. You just want enough power so that your projectile reaches the target. It doesn't matter if it would drop down to the ground just a few meters ahead of the target. That doesn't matter. So therefore, this would be a really good slingshot for a tournament, but also for learning how to shoot with it. Now, in a tournament, you would most likely use like 8mm steel balls, or maybe 1/4-inch steel balls that are even smaller than this. So this is actually, I don't shoot those a lot because I don't have many of them. I just had to drag them out of a corner. That's why they're all rusted. But this typically is the slingshot ammo that you use for tournaments. As you see, it behaves just like the rubber balls. So of course you can also take this to the extremes. So therefore this is like a high performance slingshot for tournament shooters. This will give you tremendous speed. First of all, this is not TheraBand Gold, but it's like a specific rubber made for the slingshot market. This one was given to me maybe 5-6 years ago. I don't even know, I don't remember who gave it to me. Someone who just focused this on slingshots. And there's now newer rubber types. I still use the TheraBand Gold, which is really a gym stuff that you typically find in women's gyms. And I love it because it really gives you good performance, and it's also very durable. And I have so much of this stuff from like TV shows that I could just keep whatever they no longer needed after this shooting. So I have so much of it that I'm probably done for the rest of my life, and I'm storing it cool and dark, and therefore it won't ever spoil, I think. I have some of these that are like 15 years old, and they're just as good as new. So it's just sunlight that you need to avoid when you store it. In any case, there are now newer types. So this is probably outdated already. So this is what the guy gave me, and there's a thicker one that is yellow. But I know that there is now newer type, and some people are swearing on it. I think it's basically, the difference is basically very small. So all these rubber types are high performance, and if you found out some better rubber and then go ahead and use it, it doesn't really matter. I just stick to the TheraBand Gold because I know it. I know exactly how to cut it, and I got so much of it that I don't really think I want to spend money on rubber types that probably have a 5% of a better performance. All right, coming back to the Rambini slingshot. So this is an extremely short rubber band. Why is it short? Because that's really limited to the anchor point shooting. So you stretch this out to the max, and this rubber, you can be stretched out to about 6.5 times the relaxed length. So this means that this here has an active part of maybe 13 centimeters. So I can draw it out to like 75 centimeters. So the stretch is really over here. You can't really stretch it any further than this. And of course this gives you maximum power, and you can also see that this is pretty massively tapered from 3 centimeters down to 2 centimeters. This will also mean that it will start to tear very soon here at the pouch end, but it will give you super high performance. And actually, because this is so fast, it will lash out far, and then it wants to slap me on the fingers, which I'm preventing by using this Rambini slingshot that I invented a long time ago, that comes with a shield for the fingers to avoid these painful attacks. And you can also see that the pouch is tiny. That is because this slingshot is made for one purpose only: shooting very small ammo, like 8mm steel balls, shooting this ammo at the highest maximum speed when I'm only drawing to the anchor point. So I could exceed it by just drawing out further, but then of course I would have to cut this differently, but then I can no longer aim. So if you really want to aim with the anchor method and you want to use these small steel balls because you want maximum speed, then this would be a band set for you. So you probably noticed that this is much faster. So this is really fast shooting. Problem with the small steel balls is that you don't see them in flight because they're so tiny. So this is some kind of a high performance slingshot, but of course it's limited to the draw length up to the corner of your mouth. But it is really easy to hit and aim with this. So that's pretty much the tournament and the learning phase complete. Now we are stepping up and we are now looking at slingshot for hunting, no matter if you want to hunt zombies or human attackers, or where legal and when legal. And also, of course, if you live somewhere where it's legal to hunt like small game, like rabbits and turkeys and so on. In Germany, it's not legal to do that, but I think in England it's okay. All right, so if you want to hunt, then of course you have to be a really good slingshot shooter. You don't have to hit like, you know, a coin-sized target like the tournament shooters do. But of course you must be able to hit the animal in a way that it will not suffer too much. And therefore, I guess with zombies it doesn't really matter, but then your dead zone is about this big. So you must be a really good shooter, you must shoot reliably, and you must be able to master strong bands, because otherwise it won't be an effective shot. So you really want to make sure that you have enough power. Therefore, you must practice a lot before you really go and shoot at something that lives or used to live. In any case, I swear I'm going to stop making jokes about zombies. I know it's stupid. Silly me. Now again, so I recommend practicing with bands that are kind of powerful. So these are really wide bands already, Theraband Gold. But as you probably see, they are almost not tapered, you know, if they are tapered at all. Because if you want to shoot, if you want to shoot, you know, many shots to a given slingshot band, tapering is not good because it will tear very soon here. And if you use straight cut bands, they will last a lot longer. Yes, you won't have the same speed, but for practice that's not really relevant, but you need the resistance. You need to practice hitting things even though there is a lot of draw force behind it. So this slingshot here is actually a slingshot that you can still shoot just to get tuned in with the anchor point method, but you can also draw it out a little longer. And this is what I recommend. I recommend this so-called half butterfly method. This means that you don't draw it to here, but you draw it more than that, like as far as you can, which would be about here. Now, if you go beyond this, the hand, the wrist is really awkward. So if you want to go into the full butterfly, you really have to hook in your wrist, and that you know, it really takes away the strength from your fingers. So this is much easier to maximize the power. So I would actually maximize my power on the half butterfly, not on the full butterfly. So I recommend half butterfly if you want to use a slingshot for self-defense or hunting. Any case, now you can no longer aim with this method. So how do you aim when you do this with this here? It's very simple. I recommend holding the slingshot lower, like so. This also really maximizes your muscle strength here, because, you know, it's like here where the muscle is most effective. Holding it lower, and then you draw out, and then you look over the bands again. You can cover the lower band with the upper band. But what you do is simply follow the line of the bands, because this is exactly what the ball is going to fly to. So you follow the line of the bands, and then if you release, you can hit something. Now, ammunition for hunting. For hunting, you don't really want to use the super small steel balls. You want to use bigger steel balls because they have more weight and more oomph, and they also reflect the stronger band sets that you're using. This would be painful to be shot with the small steel balls because it would come back and slap you on the fingers. So you really want to shoot something substantial. And I actually recommend using sizable steel balls, or even better, lead balls. So this is a 60mm steel ball, and this is, I think, probably a 12mm lead ball. So they weigh almost the same. So therefore, but this here, of course, is the much more dense material. And this is what you want, because the weight you really make sure that you got enough impact, enough oomph behind it, enough momentum. But the diameter will prevent it from entering easily into the tissue of whatever you're shooting at. So the smaller the ammo and the more dense it is, the deeper it will penetrate. Therefore, most hunters actually use this. So if shot from a powerful slingshot, this will go straight through a turkey and through a rabbit as well. So, and this one will kill too, but the lead is actually superior if you want to do this. Now, lead is expensive, and also it will deform, so you can't really use it. So for practice, I would always recommend using the steel balls. And then, if it's getting serious, then switch over to lead. All right, so again, put it in the pouch. And then you stretch it out into the half butterfly. And then make sure to release it cleanly. Remember, just let it slide out between your fingers. Then you aim at your target and you miss. Now, same as before, you got to get dialed in how high you have to hold it. And this is just normal. You need to get a feeling. I'm shooting so many different slingshots today that I won't hit everything on the first attempt. So even though these bands are not tapered, there's a lot more oomph. I'm sure that you noticed this, just simply because the steel ball is much heavier and also these bands are more powerful. So this slingshot has a reasonably high fork, and also you can again shoot it in the hammer grip style that I'm using, but you can also use it in the finger support style. It's really up to you how you want to shoot this. But if you are afraid of still hitting your hand, which with this height can certainly not happen, you can go to a higher frame if you want, and a lot of people do that. So this slingshot actually was given to me at the same tournament 15 years ago by Tom from Bunny Buster Slingshots. It's his hammer mill design, love that name, and I still retain the original tag that he put on it. So, very interesting. It says it's orange curly maple, and then it's camel bone. So this here actually is camel bone. I really like the looks of it. And as you see, it has a really high fork. And again, I can shoot it in the finger support style or in the hammer grip style. But if you shoot this one in the hammer grip style, of course, the torque on the wrist is super high. So, I mean, I can do it because I'm still reasonably strong. But typically, if you want to shoot this finger support style, then it would be much easier to control. But of course, if you really want to make sure that you're never hitting your fingers, shooting it this way will absolutely make sure it's physically, I think, not possible to hit your hand with a fork like this. And these, as you see, are already tapered bands. They're also a little bit longer, so I can stretch them out really far. These are double bands now. So this is a serious hunting band. This is actually a band dimension that I would use if I would have to hunt. I don't really enjoy hunting. I would only do it if I would have to, which currently is not the case, fortunately. But in case I would have to, this would be a band dimension that I would actually prefer. So this band set is strong enough even for the 20mm balls, but let's start with the 60mm. And you also notice that the pouch is much bigger already on here. This is because it needs to match the ammo they want to shoot. And these bands I will definitely also shoot with a 20mm ball. If the pouch is too small, the ball can slide out and then terrible things can happen. You probably have heard about the return to sender shots. This means that slingshot shooters hitting themselves. How is that possible? Well, it happens when you shoot and then the ball slips out of the pouch because you're not holding it right, you're not releasing it right, or simply because the pouch is too small. It slips out and then it starts to fall, like so. And when that happens, the bands would lash out really far because there's no more payload. And then they would come back, and because gravity makes sure that everything drops the same distance in the same amount of time, it would on the way back catch the fallen steel ball and hurl it right back to you. Therefore, it would only have a fraction of the power, but it will still be painful enough to really not be pleasant at all. So therefore, make sure that you use a large enough pouch and make sure that you're releasing it cleanly. Practice this with rubber balls or paintballs if you want, until you're absolutely sure that you got it down. Now, if you want to know how to make these bands, because you can't buy these bands, you really have to make them by yourself. The bands that you can buy are typically just standardized in size, so you have a limited choice. But if you want to make them for yourself, I still have the slingshotchannel.com page where I have a band calculator that tells you about the dimensions in terms of what you want to do. If you want to go for long life or for maximum power, you can enter the kind of ammo that you want to shoot, and then it's going to give you all the dimensions to cut it from. And there's also a manual that I've written a long time ago, but it's still absolutely valid, that you can also download, and that actually teaches you step by step how to make them, what kind of equipment you need. So I think that was what I recommend, and I put the links down there for you. Now, as I said, with bands like this, you can also use the 20mm steel balls, which are more expensive, but also they hit a lot harder. So specifically, if you're looking for zombie kill shots, you got to break the skull, and then the 20mm is pretty much unbeatable. And again, you can shoot it in finger support style as well, which on a frame like this is a little easier, just because otherwise the torque on the wrist is very high. Woo! I love seeing those cans flying. Now, if you are proficient with a serious hunting slingshot and you want to go for maximum power because you really want to kill a larger animal, then that is absolutely possible, even though I would not recommend going for like bigger game, you know, so because if you want to do this, then a headshot is pretty much your only option, and for that you really need to be a good shot. So I really recommend, you know, staying to small game. But if you want that extra power, then this would be like the maximum band set that I would actually suggest. And this is actually a triple layer Theravent Gold, but then you also need a slingshot that is lower, like this Rambone here. This is actually one that is cast from aluminum and it's powder coated. So this was made by Hogan's Castings or Middlebrow in the UK. And of course, you can get the slingshot in plastic. You're going to see it later too, for not a lot of money. This one is fairly expensive. It is also pretty heavy, but it is really a joy to shoot with a 20mm steel ball. And there's even a lanyard, so that you can make sure that should you drop it, it's not going to fall down, which is always great for hunting. Sorry, didn't hit the can this time. I reset my target so I don't run a chance to hit my fish. Bang. Even though the can almost fell into the pond. Okay, so I think we got the hunting part covered. Now let's go to maximum power. Just for whatever reason you want maximum power, maybe just because you like the feeling that you control a very powerful slingshot, or simply because you want to work out and develop muscle and you don't want to do it in a boring gym, but you want to do it out in the nature. Then of course you actually have two different ways how to do this. You can simply increase the amount of rubber until you're no longer able to control it, which has dangers. But you can also learn a different shooting style. We already mentioned the butterfly method. And this is a slingshot. It's also one that I made myself. And this is a slingshot that has these bands on it. As you see, these bands are significantly longer than the bands that I've been using before, because these bands allow me to draw out the slingshot really far. So like I'm spread my wings like a butterfly or like an eagle. And this will of course give you the longest acceleration, so therefore you just gain a lot of power. But it's also very hard to control, because, let me put in a steel ball for you. So if you put in a steel ball into this here, drawing out to here is absolutely easy. Drawing out to half butterfly is still easy. But if you go into full butterfly, see what I have to do is, it's actually cramping my hand very much, because I am actually at the limit of my wrist motion movement here, and then releasing this cleanly is a challenge. So this is still a light band set. It's just for learning how to shoot the butterfly. So it's a single layer band set. Even this is a special yellow slingshot rubber. But what it also does is it allows me to get this hand motion down. But learning the butterfly technique has its dangers, so I'm warning you, this can go wrong because you lose control about the pouch. Since you have such an awkward angle in your hand, that's very easy to have the ball slipping out of the pouch, and then the dreaded return to sender shots can start. So if you want to learn it, I recommend to go back to beginner's mode and use rubber balls or paintballs instead. I'm already getting better. If you feel comfortable shooting the butterfly style with the single layer bands, of course, You can go up to double layered bands, so this is exactly twice the rubber. It's doubled up, literally. I cut this from the same piece of rubber, and it's just more of it. And then, of course, you have to go to the 20 mil steel ball because the 16 mil would be too light. And now, as you see, also maxing out the pouch. So it's getting a little bit dangerous, since if it slips out, I would be probably ready for a return to center shot. Ha! And as you see, you don't have to draw out to the max, so you can go a little lower, start half butterfly, and then slowly stretch out until you get it down, until you got your muscle tuned up for this, which can actually happen quite quickly. But again, be careful, don't overdo it, because otherwise it can be dangerous. So when I really had that shooting style down, I was shooting it effectively with 3 bands. So this would mean it would actually be a little bit more powerful than this one, even though that is seriously powerful. But of course, on this one here, I got 4 layers on it. Why is that? Well, because that is the band set that I used to actually check the strength of a new frame. So this is the new ram hammer that I designed. It's actually my newest slingshot, and will probably hit the market in a few months, hopefully before the summer is over. This is a 3D printed prototype. And of course, if the 3D printed version really holds out the power of 4 bands, then that would be good. Now, these bands I cannot bring to full butterfly, even though they are long enough. It's just the limit of my muscle strength. So I can bring this into a half butterfly, but I cannot bring it into full butterfly. But of course, if I would practice enough with it, maybe I could just master it one day. I'm actually quite sure. And then, of course, that would be seriously the maximum power that you can achieve. But of course, it still is fun to shoot, even though this one, I prefer shooting with the 25mm steel balls. So those are 1-inch steel balls, really heavy. I think they weigh almost 70 grams. I actually shot my personal record with these ones, which I ended up at 137 joule, which is seriously over 100 foot-pounds of energy with a slingshot. And I've done this with the huge Starship that actually rests on my arm. I did this in the USA with Nathan Masters, who's still in the slingshot business. I applaud him for this, from simpleshot.com. And so we did this together, and I was really happy to achieve it. .206.8.
There we go.
That's our record shot. Way back then I was way stronger than I am now, but also a lot heavier. So thank you, Mujaro, for helping me, losing 30 kilos, which is how much? I don't know, 75 pounds. Within the last 2 years. I feel so much better now. Anyway, so these are bringing me to the limit of my personal strength, which probably at the end of the summer will be different. And I will, if I manage to draw these into full butterfly, I will surely upload a new video. May you like it or not. Anyway, let's try to hit the can with this band set, which is hard because when you're at the limit of your personal strength, aiming is the hardest thing in the world. So therefore the tournament shooters are going for the really weak bands, remember? All right. Ah! Beautifully spinning can, I love it. What about long distance? Well, first of all, this can really has received a lot of hits, and would I have filled it with water, it will be completely perforated, because cans that are filled with water, actually you can easily penetrate. If you don't fill them, the energy is all absorbed by the deformation of the can. In any case, I'm going to put it at the 50-meter mark over there, and then we're going to shoot at it with steel balls, and I will use a slingshot in half butterfly because that's where I'm best. With the full butterfly, I will probably need a lot of attempts to hit it, and therefore the half butterfly it is. And I will shoot 60mm steel balls because the sun is out, and therefore the steel balls will glisten, and this means that I have a chance to see them in flight, which is really helpful if you want to get shot in, because 50-meter distance is brutal for a slingshot, believe me. Okay, this is the preferred band set for it. It's attached to the hammer mill, which isn't my favorite frame, but I think it'll do anyway. I think I hit the can below the other one. It's kind of almost falling over now. Now it fell down. Okay. I give up. I don't really want to go and fetch those. As you saw, I am not good enough to hit that can with every shot, specifically not with that frame. That really isn't for me. But I would actually hit the board, which is like the size of an upper man's body. I would hit that reliably with almost every shot. So therefore, I'm really good enough. But I have the summer ahead of me, so I want to do some more practicing since it's so much fun. And it's always been fun for me. And every summer I did this. It's just I didn't make all that many videos about it. Let's see how many views this video is going to get, because I don't know. That was a solid hit. In any case, I hope you like this, because that's it for today. Thanks, and bye-bye. But really, boy, it feels good to have a serious slingshot in the hand again.